Are you avoiding me? He stepped closer, step by predatory step. His long, slender fingers toyed with the knot of his tie, loosening it left, then right. The movement was effortlessly elegant and dangerous. My heart hammered against my ribs like a traitor. Julian, let's talk about this, don't. My voice cracked, raspy and completely lacking my usual authority. My face felt like it was on fire. Sloane, a flicker of triumph danced in his eyes. He leaned in, his voice a low velvet whisper. We are legally married. Great, my plan to run away from home was officially a bust. I surrender. 1. Julian is my husband, yes, but in the beginning, we weren't supposed to be a real couple. The shift in our dynamic started the morning I threw myself at him. I woke up that day with a splitting headache and the realization that there was a man in my bed. Young features, lean muscle, fresh. Before my whiskey-soaked brain could process the disaster of the previous night, the man frowned, stirring awake. His arm instinctively tightened around my waist, and he pulled me in, dropping a soft, lingering kiss on my forehead. Morning, he mumbled against my skin. It was so natural, so fluid, as if we'd done this 1,000 times before. I slapped his hand away and bolted upright, staring laser beams at the blackout curtains. I had to maintain my composure. I was the older one here. I was the adult. About last night, I started, squinting through the hangover. I was drunk. I breached the contract first. I'll wire the penalty fee to your account within 7 business days. If you want to terminate our partnership immediately, I won't contest it. God, I sounded ridiculous. Clear, logical, and completely insane. In any normal marriage, consummating the union 3 months in would be cause for celebration. But not us. My heart bled thinking about the prenup I drafted myself. I literally wrote a clause penalizing physical intimacy. I was about to pay a fine for sleeping with my own husband. Is there anything stupider than digging your own grave and falling into it? If I had known that one day we wouldn't be able to resist each other, I wouldn't have added that damn penalty clause. Alcohol really is the devil. I was about to lose a fortune. His voice was thick with sleep, raspy and deep. It was unfairly attractive. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy, charged. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. Sloane, I had a great time last night, he murmured, inching closer, acting all clingy. My spine locked up. I let out a dry laugh. Julian, please be normal. I am being normal. He looked at me with those clear, puppy dog eyes, feigning hurt. I looked away. Okay, fine, he was being normal, I was the mess. My face burned hotter. I scrambled off the bed. Sorry to disturb you, I'm leaving. I started frantically grabbing my clothes. He propped his head on his hand, lying on his side like a centerfold model, his tone sincere. Sloane, can I make a suggestion? I paused, clutching my blouse to my chest. What? Next time, he sat up, the sheet pooling at his waist. He held my gaze, his expression dead serious. Don't keep asking me questions. Questions? Yeah, stop asking me things like, is this okay? Or does that hurt? It's shy work. Oh my God. I am a monster. 2. My marriage to Julian was born out of spite. Years ago, I spent my entire youth chasing a guy named Carter. He was my god, my golden boy. One day, he was encouraging me to keep trying, implying I had a chance, and the next day he was engaged to a woman I absolutely loathed. Regret, jealousy, grievance, rage. It was a toxic cocktail that drowned my common sense. Add in my parents, and every aunt I owned relentlessly pushing me to date and settle down, and I snapped. I chose a marriage of convenience. I wanted peace. I wanted a shield. I even scheduled my wedding for the day before Carter's, just to satisfy some twisted, childish need to win. And the reason I lost my mind and crossed the line with Julian, that was Carter's fault too. He came back to the States recently and asked to meet for coffee. Pathetically, a part of me was still holding onto hope. I fantasized that he was divorced, miserable, regretting his life choices. Nope. He was successful, happily married with a perfect family, and just wanted to catch up with an old friend. I left that meeting feeling humiliated, hollow, and angry at myself, so I went to a bar. I drank until the world blurred. And when I got home, I took all that pent-up emotion and unloaded it on poor, innocent Julian, shattering our peaceful, platonic arrangement into a million pieces. 3. They say the person you least want to see is the one you're destined to run into. When I clocked out that evening, I dragged my feet out of the office building, exhausted. But even through the crowd, I spotted him instantly. Julian. He was standing near the entrance, hands buried in his pockets. The fading evening light hit him from behind, outlining him in a soft, hazy glow. He looked tall, lean, and unfairly fresh. His white dress shirt was buttoned all the way to the top, meticulous, almost restrictive, highlighting the elegant slope of his neck and shoulders. He had these long, straight legs that went on forever. Just standing there, his vibrant, youthful energy separated him from the tired corporate drones around us. He was his own spotlight. "Babe, over here." He waved his arm, his smile bright enough to blind someone. I walked over, my eyes catching the tips of his ears, which were dusted pink. I suddenly forgot how to speak. "Payday," he announced, beaming. "I'm taking you out to dinner, my treat." I remembered the 3-month business trip looming over my head. Guilt pricked at me. Okay. The tension in Julian's shoulders vanished. He linked his arm through mine, completely natural. "Let's go then." The more we slept together, the clingier he got. I actually found myself missing the first 3 months of our marriage. The polite distance, the boundaries, the manners. I tried to subtly pull my arm away, creating a sliver of space. I looked up at him, forcing a professional smile. "Julian." He cut me off before I could start my lecture. His eyes shimmered with a gentle, expectant light. "Sloan, it's my birthday today. I want to hear you say it." My breath hitched. I pursed my lips, unsure of what tone to take. Too intimate felt wrong, too distant felt cruel. God, how do you even define this relationship anymore? He waited, and when I took too long, that familiar hurt look started to creep onto his face. My heart softened. I stood on my tiptoes and reached up, ruffling his soft, fluffy hair. "Happy birthday, Julian. I hope you stay safe and healthy." It wasn't exactly poetry, but peace and health were the best things I could wish for anyone. He tilted his head, smiling with pure satisfaction, a little canine tooth peeking out. He must have done his research because he dragged me straight to a spicy Szechuan place, my absolute favorite. I ate happily through the whole meal. Julian, on the other hand, barely touched his food. He was too busy piling spiced beef and chili chicken onto my plate. By the time we finished, I was slumped in my chair, rubbing my stomach. "I have to leave the day after tomorrow, business trip. I might be gone for a few months. Hold down the fort for me, okay?" The light in Julian's eyes dimmed. He pressed his lips into a thin line. "Sloan, do you really have to go?" I didn't answer. My gaze drifted to the table next to us. There was a toddler there, grinning at me with a toothless, drooly smile. Julian followed my gaze. A sudden realization hit him. He practically scrambled out of his seat, crouched down next to my chair, and looked up at me. "Sloan, we could have one of those." I shot up like my chair was electrified. Did he forget this was a fake marriage? Or did he think that just because we broke the rules once, the entire contract was void? The scolding words were on the tip of my tongue, but they died when I looked down at him. He was looking up at me like a pitiful, abandoned puppy. His eyes were wet and crystalline, the double eyelids deep and defined, with a tiny beauty mark right under the corner of his eye. I swallowed hard. "Julian," I managed, my voice tight, "let's just enjoy the moment. Don't talk about the future." His face lit up instantly. He stood up and wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close. Smart kid, he knows exactly how to work me. 4. Before my trip, Julian and I spent the night together. Again. I practically fled the next morning, catching the first high-speed train out of the city. "Sloan, you're glowing," my colleague, Roxy, teased me in the hotel room later while we were doing our skincare routines. "Life must be treating you well." I looked in the mirror, my fingers tracing the faint, reddish marks on my neck. Why did I feel this sudden, weird surge of pride? "Look at that dreamy expression," Roxy laughed, winking. "Come on, let's go hit the hotel bar. You need to cool down." Fair enough, a change of scenery might help me clear my head. We went down to the lounge. We hadn't been sitting there for 20 minutes before men started circling. I don't know why, but I couldn't bring myself to care. Every time a guy approached, I found myself subconsciously comparing him to Julian. Julian was taller, Julian smelled better, Julian's eyes were clearer. The best hunters always disguise themselves as prey, Roxy whispered in my ear. Then she hooked her arm around a muscle-bound guy and sauntered off, leaving me alone in the booth. Just like that. Being single must be nice. I watched her walk away, feeling a strange mix of envy and relief. Sloane, what are you doing here? The voice was familiar, too familiar. I turned around and felt my stomach drop. It was Carter, the god, the man I had wasted years pining over. He looked incredible, of course. Black suit, white shirt unbuttoned just enough to show his collarbones, silver-rimmed glasses perched on his high nose. His lips were parted slightly, giving him a look of casual, intellectual danger. He looked like a high-class heartbreaker, a sexy mistake waiting to happen. Decompressing, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Trouble in paradise? He sat down next to me, leaning his elbow on the table and tilting his head to look at me. Behind the lenses, his eyes were heavy with what looked like affection. I looked away, feeling unnatural. Just the usual marriage nonsense. You're married, you know how it is. My tone was acid, I couldn't help it. He chuckled softly. Actually, I just finalized my divorce. My head snapped back. What? I tried to play it cool, raising my glass for a toast. Divorced? Last I heard, you were living the dream. Silence. He stood up, brushed his hand against my shoulder, and then leaned down. His lips brushed the shell of my ear. Divorce your husband, he whispered, his voice vibrating through me, and I'll tell you everything. Okay, that was a lot. My heart rate spiked. I swallowed dryly and looked up, meeting his gaze. The bar lights were dim and hazy. The music was a low thrum in the background. He was too close. I could smell him, a subtle, expensive, woody cologne. But in that split second, my brain didn't register it as sexy. Instead, I thought of the crisp, clean scent of Julian, like rain and soap. Guilt crashed over me like a bucket of ice water. I pushed Carter away. I don't know what you're playing at, I said, narrowing my eyes with a smile that didn't reach them. He nodded, unbothered, and sat back down, taking a slow sip of his drink. The atmosphere was getting dangerous. Before I did something stupid, I decided to bail. I walked out, but Carter followed. He grabbed my arm and pulled me into the emergency stairwell, shoving me through the heavy fire door. He pressed me back against the wall, his hands clamping down on my shoulders, pinning me in place. Sloane, you're really good at enduring things, aren't you? His voice was laced with anger now. His face was half hidden in the shadows of the stairwell. The man I had fantasized about for years was inches away. All I had to do was lean forward, and our lips would touch. Carter, I don't like you anymore, I said, staring straight into his eyes. Or maybe, I just realized I don't want things that are handed to me on a platter. He was unforgettable, sure. He had occupied my entire youth, but right here, right now, looking at him in the harsh fluorescent light of the stairwell. The filter was gone. The memory was beautiful, but the reality, it felt hollow. Carter lowered his gaze. He reached up with a long, pale finger and pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. Is that so? He leaned in again, his hot breath fanning across the sensitive skin of my neck. My breath caught in my throat. I'll wait for you to change your mind. 5. Back in my hotel room, I couldn't settle down. I scrolled through my phone, switching between apps, feeling increasingly irritable and empty. I wanted to call Julian and scream at him. I've been gone for days, and he hasn't called me once. The audacity. Did he find someone else? Was all that I like you best, Sloane talk, just pillow talk? Just as I was debating whether to cave and call him, a strange number flashed on my screen. I picked up, hello. Sloane, it's me. My heart did a traitorous little flip. Julian, what's wrong? Silence. Speak, I commanded. A cough on the other end, then a small, pitiful voice. I'm at the train station in your city. Can you come get me? I lost my phone, my wallet, and my luggage. My jaw dropped. He actually took a train to chase me down, and now he was stranded. I felt a mix of anger and amusement. Julian, seriously, you need to learn some street smarts. If you used half the energy you use in the bedroom on basic survival skills, you wouldn't be in this mess. I was already grabbing my coat and purse, my anxiety dissolving into familiar nagging as I rushed out the door. I'm sorry, he said meekly. I have to give the phone back to the nice staff member now. Please come get me, I'm scared. I suppressed a smile. Depends on my mood. Sloan, please, I'm not moving until you get here. I hung up, realizing the dangerous appeal of dating a younger man. Being needed, being the savior, it fed the ego in a way I hadn't expected. Stay put, I whispered to the dial tone. When I got to the station, I spotted him immediately. He was standing under the giant schedule board, looking stiff and serious, scanning the crowd like a lost elementary schooler waiting for his mom. Before I could even wave, he saw me. His face lit up, melting from stoic to radiant in a split second. He sprinted toward me, long legs eating up the distance, and practically tackled me into a hug, spinning me around. Sloan, he buried his face in my neck, inhaling sharply. I struggled to push him back. Julian, behave, people are watching. He looked at me with those shimmering, innocent eyes. He didn't say a word, just radiated pure, unadulterated puppy. I felt like I'd just punched a marshmallow. Guilt washed over me. I sighed, defeated. Let's go to the lost and found. Lost and found, he blinked. For your luggage. A flicker of smugness crossed his face. Oh, that. He bit his lip, trying to hide a smile. About that, I lied, it was a strategy. A strategy. I played the distress card. He hooked his arm through mine, leaning his weight on me and looking up through his lashes. I was afraid you wouldn't want to see me, or wouldn't give me your hotel address. Sloan, I missed you so much. You can hit me, you can yell at me, just don't send me away. Okay. I stared at him, speechless. He was a menace, a manipulative, clingy, adorable menace. He'd orchestrated this whole drama just to get into my bed. 6. We barely made it inside the hotel room before Julian's lips were on mine. We didn't even turn on the lights. I let him set the pace, which was enthusiastic and completely lacking in restraint. So much for being the responsible elder. All my maturity went out the window the second he touched me. Later, bathed in the moonlight filtering through the sheer curtains, I traced the line of his jaw. His skin was pale porcelain, his features sharp yet delicate. His eyes were misty, giving him a fragile, broken look that triggered two conflicting instincts, the urge to bully him and the urge to protect him at all costs. Sloan, he whispered, tightening his arms around me, I really, really like you. We had done things far more intimate than talking, but hearing those words made me feel like a blushing teenager. It was awkward, raw, and terrifying. I didn't answer. Sensing my hesitation, Julian propped himself up, hovering over me. Sloan. Then, before I could process, he scooped me up and carried me to the bathroom. I lay in the bathtub, eyeing him warily. Be a human being, Julian. I have a huge meeting tomorrow. He held the shower head in one hand, using the other to gently wash my skin. His expression was focused, almost reverent. I know, relax. The water was warm, his touch was hypnotic, and before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep. I woke up to my alarm the next morning. Julian was still asleep. I reached out and tapped the tip of his nose. He looked like an angel when he wasn't awake and causing trouble. You were a demon last night, I thought. My body ached. Instead of feeling rested, I felt like I'd run a marathon. I sighed at my own lack of stamina and tried to stealthily roll out of bed. An arm shot out and yanked me back. Sloan, Julian mumbled, burying his face in my back. Who is Carter? I froze, my blood ran cold. I scrambled out of his grip and stood up. How do you know that name? Julian sat up, the sheets pooling at his waist. His eyes were dark and hurt. You were talking in your sleep last night. Panic clawed at my throat. What else had I said? I dug my fingernails into my palms, forcing a laugh. Just a random name. Go back to sleep. I did my makeup in a rush and met Roxy in the lobby. She grinned, looking me up and down. Well, someone's glowing. Good harvest last night. I thought of Julian's sad eyes when he asked about Carter. A heavy weight settled in my chest. Why the long face? Roxy patted my shoulder. I'm starting to get confused, I admitted. I don't know if I'm the hunter or the prey anymore. Roxy raised an eyebrow. Do you know what you want? Did you get it? Answer those 2 questions and everything else is just noise. She checked her watch. All right, money time. No thinking about men. This is the big leagues. She was right. But the universe has a sick sense of humor. Because when we walked into the conference room, the client was Carter. I felt like I'd walked into a wall. Mr. Wei, I said, shaking his hand with practiced professional detachment. I'm Sloan. Pleasure to meet you. Likewise, Sloan. He held my hand a second too long. His voice dropped an octave on my name, turning a professional greeting into a bedroom whisper. I yanked my hand back and hid behind Roxy. He glanced at me, eyes dancing with amusement, but didn't blow my cover. The meeting started. I found my rhythm, presenting our proposal with confidence. I was in the zone. Suddenly, Carter, who had been leaning back in his chair, sat up straight. Sloan, he interrupted, do you still have our graduation photo? The room went silent. I frowned. Excuse me. The one from university, he continued, ignoring the confused looks from his own team. I can't find my copy. Could you make a copy of yours for me? Roxy leaned over, whispering, you know him. Barely, I muttered. I turned to Carter, putting on my coldest, most corporate smile. Mr. Wei, it's just a photo. If you lost it, it clearly wasn't that important. I don't see the point in digging up the past. Carter smirked, looking entirely too pleased with himself. I disagree. Sometimes you have to look back to understand the true value of things, don't you think? I stared at him. Was he serious? He was looking back at the years I spent being his doormat and calling it valuable. For 4 years, I was his biggest fan. I memorized his schedule, his allergies, his coffee order. That photo he wanted? I had to do his cleaning duty for an entire semester just to get him to agree to take it with me. I think that's called being pathetic, I thought. Out loud, I just smiled. I wouldn't know. 7. After a long, draining day, I was ready to collapse. I was just about to make my escape when Carter stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Dinner, tonight. I gave him a tired, polite smile. Thanks for the offer, Mr. Wei, but I have plans. Carter didn't budge. He tapped his chin, pretending to think. I can change the agenda. Let's call it a working dinner. Seriously. He wasn't going to take no for an answer. I sighed internally, so I can't refuse. Not unless you want it to reflect poorly on your performance review. Fine, lead the way, Mr. Wei. I sat back down in the lobby chair, defeated. A flash of irritation crossed his eyes. He leaned down, invading my personal space. Is the idea of eating alone with me that repulsive? I'm a married woman. I need to maintain boundaries. I met his gaze without flinching. He smirked, a complicated expression twisting his lips. Are you actually in love with him, or does he just check the right boxes? My chest tightened. It felt like he was looking right through me. For years, other than Carter, I hadn't met anyone who made my heart race. Most of the time, checking the boxes was exactly how I operated. Mr. Wei, we aren't close enough to discuss my private life. Besides, this kind of gossip is beneath you. He straightened up, nodding slowly. I saw the raw footage from your wedding day. A cold feeling of dread settled in my stomach. You were drunk, he said, his voice dropping, masking his emotions. You kept calling out my name. I froze. I couldn't tell if he was mocking me or pitying me. My throat felt like it was stuffed with cotton. I just wanted to leave. To hell with the performance review. Anything was better than standing here, stripped bare and humiliated. I grabbed my bag, stood up abruptly, and walked out. I couldn't even maintain my facade of composure anymore. Grievance, annoyance, shame, it all bubbled up. If I stayed another second, I was going to scream. The moment I stepped out of the office building, I saw Julian. He was standing by the fountain, wearing a gray hoodie and sweatpants. The evening breeze ruffled his soft hair. His eyes were clear and bright, a stark contrast to the murky tension I'd just left. When he saw me, his face broke into a warm, healing smile. He walked over quickly and wrapped his arms around me, resting his chin on my shoulder in a heavy, dependent way. Sloan, you didn't text me back all day. I had been battling Carter for hours. I hadn't had the energy to look at my phone. Hearing the slight pout in his voice, the tension in my chest dissolved. Sorry, He kissed my cheek softly, cutting me off. It's okay, I'm not mad anymore. God. Compared to Carter's dark, manipulative games, Julian was like a breath of fresh oxygen. I took his hand, interlacing our fingers tight. Come on, I'm buying you dinner. 8. We picked a random roadside stall. I sat on a cheap plastic stool, letting the night wind cool my skin, sipping a beer in silence. Julian sat quietly beside me. He seemed deep in thought, but he didn't push for conversation. The atmosphere was natural, comfortable. I loved this about him. We could talk if we wanted, or we could just exist. No pressure. You're not drinking. I nudged his shoulder, offering him my half-empty bottle. He smiled, his eyes curving into crescents. If you drink too much, you'll feel sick. I need to stay sober to take care of you. My heart did a little flip. I reached out and patted his cheek. Tell me, Julian, do you actually like me, or do I just check the right boxes? It was a remix of the question Carter had thrown at me earlier. I was curious what Julian would say. He lowered his lashes. His warm breath ghosted over my face, making the night air feel suddenly intimate. What about you, Sloane? His voice was a whisper. I hadn't expected him to turn it back on me. I chuckled, sitting up straight and taking another swig of beer to hide my expression. But he wouldn't let it go. He gently wrapped his hand around my wrist, his gaze intense. Have you ever thought about our future? Our future. I gave him a pragmatic smile. The contract renews every 3 years. If you still want to continue when the time comes, we can discuss it. Our prenuptial agreement was clear. Either party could terminate with notice. If no one spoke up, it auto-renewed for 3 years. We were both free, but it also meant our relationship was transactional, something that required maintenance, not destiny. I had only meant to make casual conversation, but now that we were here, I regretted it. I clumsily changed the subject. How long are you staying? When do you have to go back to work? Julian looked at me with undisguised disappointment. He didn't answer. I shifted uncomfortably. This is why I hated feelings. Once emotions get involved, everything gets complicated. Liking someone is unstable. I preferred simplicity. I preferred clear lines. Never mind, Sloane, I won't ask. Julian was sharp. In a split second, he sensed my avoidance and chose to retreat. That surprised me. I smiled and ruffled his hair again. If you're unhappy, you can always tell me. Don't force yourself. You're young, so you might not get it yet, but at my age, peace of mind is the most important thing. Faced with his consideration, I felt a pang of guilt. I ended up being more honest than I intended. Julian looked at me deeply, then picked up his chopsticks and started putting food on my plate, reverting to his gentle, attentive self. But the guilt didn't go away. Beep! A car horn blared from the street. I turned my head. Carter was leaning against a black Range Rover. His arm was draped casually over the window, and he was wearing sunglasses at night. His expression was cold. When he saw me looking, he honked again. Done eating yet? Julian stood up instantly, his body tense, eyes filled with alarm. Sloane, is that Carter? I picked up my beer, finished it in one gulp, and stood up. I stood on my tiptoes, pulled Julian down, and planted a kiss on his lips. It was soft and warm. He froze for a second before kissing me back. I found myself wanting to extend the moment. So I did. When I was younger, I used to fantasize about kissing the person I loved in front of a crowd, fearless and open. In a weird, twisted way, I had just fulfilled that wish. But I wasn't sure of my own motive. Was it to show Carter, to comfort Julian, or did I just selfishly want that warmth? When we pulled apart, our breathing was a little ragged. The alarm in Julian's eyes had vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated joy. He grabbed my hand, interlocking our fingers again. Wife. I wanted to mess up his hair again, but I felt like I was treating him too much like a pet, so I stopped myself. I need to go clear things up with him, go back to the hotel and wait for me, okay? Julian looked down. He hesitated, then gave me a quick, tight hug. He turned and walked away. He walked fast, but I still caught the glint of red around his eyes and the reluctance on his face. 9. I stood on the bridge overlooking the river, the wind whipping my hair across my face. Carter stood beside me, leaning against the railing. Suddenly, he produced a hair tie from somewhere, magic, apparently, and stepped behind me. His fingers brushed my neck as he expertly gathered my hair and tied it back. "Miranda taught you that, didn't she?" I asked, tilting my head with a dry smile. Miranda was his ex-wife. One woman plants the tree, the next one gets the shade. Carter was full of habits and skills refined by another woman. I knew the old him, so the upgrades were obvious. "Sloane," he said, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "You're angry that I chose her over you back then, aren't you?" I blinked, then laughed out loud. "Can you tell me why you're choosing to look back at me now?" Carter looked toward the horizon, silent. The clouds drifted over the moon, plunging us into shadow. "Carter, I'm leaving," I said. I didn't have the patience for his brooding silence anymore. I turned and walked in the opposite direction. It felt symbolic, walking away from him, from the past, from the version of me that would have begged for this moment. Getting what you want has an expiration date. Once that date passes, the gesture loses all meaning. I walked aimlessly through the streets to clear my head. Of course, the sky decided to open up. It didn't just rain, it poured. I was in the middle of nowhere. No shelter. No Uber drivers accepting my ride request. To top it off, I slipped on the wet pavement, scraping my knee and muddying my clothes. A surge of irrational anger bubbled up. I refused to let the universe win today. I limped along for 20 minutes until I finally flagged down a taxi returning from the airport. I survived, barely. When I got back to the hotel, I looked like a drowned rat. Julian took one look at me and went pale. "Did Carter let you walk home like this?" He grabbed a bath towel, wrapped me in it like a burrito, and ushered me into the bathroom. I didn't have the energy to explain. I just shook my head. "Why didn't you call me?" He started unbuttoning my soaked shirt, his fingers trembling slightly. I caught his hands. "Get out, I can do it myself." He hesitated, hurt flashing in his eyes, but he obeyed and left the room. I sank into the warm water, feeling a weird mix of emotions. He asked why I didn't call. The truth, I did think about it, but I didn't think he could solve anything. In fact, I was afraid he'd just be another problem to manage. When I finally crawled into bed, exhausted, Julian spooned me from behind. I stiffened. "I'm tired, don't touch me." His arm tightened around my waist. His voice was muffled against my shoulder. "Sloane, am I just a boy toy to you? Someone to keep you warm?" I was too drained to argue. I fell asleep in his arms without answering. The next morning, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Julian was sulking, lying on his stomach playing on his phone with his back to me. Before I left for work, I tried to be the responsible adult. "Julian, at your age, you should be focusing on your career. Go back to the city. Go to work." He sat up abruptly. His hair was a mess, making him look like an angry, ruffled kitten. "Right, because I'm not like you, balancing work while flirting with old flames." I smiled, refusing to take the bait. "Think what you want." As I closed the door, I heard the distinct crash of something shattering against the floor. Kids, so dramatic. 10. Carter wasn't in the office that day. Without his looming presence, I was a productivity machine. Men really do just slow me down. After I finished tearing into an incompetent junior associate, Roxy slid over to my desk. "Whoa, easy there. You're giving off serious Ice Queen energy today." I didn't look up from my files. If people did their jobs, I wouldn't have to do it for them. I don't see them splitting their paycheck with me. Roxy laughed. Okay, you need to blow off some steam tonight, drinks." "Can't," I said, running a hand through my hair. "Ah, Mr. Way?" Roxy wiggled her eyebrows. "People saw you two leaving the bar together the other night, and there are rumors floating around the office. Spill it. Is it true?" My stomach dropped. No. Roxy sensed the shift in my mood and awkwardly excused herself. Julian didn't text me all day, but when I walked out of the building that evening, there he was. He was standing in the crowd, beaming like a lighthouse. When he saw me, his smile softened into something incredibly tender. "I thought you left," I asked as he took my bag. He draped his arm around my shoulders. "I'm leaving tonight. I wanted to steal a few more hours with you." Tonight, so my lecture this morning actually worked. Good. We ate dinner, then walked hand in hand down the street like a normal couple. He had 3 hours before his flight. We wouldn't see each other for months. Want to go back to the hotel? I suggested, breaking the silence. I felt guilty about last night. I wanted to give him something before he left. Julian stopped walking. He looked offended, even a little angry. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. You really do just see me as a warm body, don't you? I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to acknowledge his needs. Then what do you want to do? I asked patiently. He looked at me, his eyes dark and earnest. Nothing, I just want to be next to you, quietly. Isn't that a waste of time? The words slipped out before I could stop them. He looked crushed. He leaned down and hugged me, burying his face in my neck. Sloan, every second I spend with you is enough. Please don't think of me that way. It took me a solid 10 seconds to process that. By the time I realized how sweet it was, the moment had passed. He pulled back. Let's go to a movie. Okay. We had just sat down in the theater when my phone started vibrating. It was Carter's assistant. A frantic stream of texts about a critical error in the project. I needed to return to the office immediately. I didn't think twice. I stood up. Julian grabbed my wrist. He looked at me, words hovering on his lips, but then he silently stood up and followed me out. It's work, I can't ignore it. I'm sorry, I said. To me, my career was infinitely more solid than this hazy, undefined relationship. He seemed to understand, yet looked disappointed. He ruffled my hair. When we reached my office building, I turned to rush inside. Julian grabbed my arm. Under the yellow streetlights, his expression was unreadable. Sloan, we're even now. Even? He leaned down, pressed a quick kiss to my forehead, and stepped back. Go. I didn't have time to decipher riddles. I ran upstairs. It took hours. By the time I fixed the emergency, it was 1:00 a.m., and I realized something. The error was manufactured. Carter had done it on purpose. I checked my phone, nothing from Julian. Based on the time, he should have boarded, landed, and arrived home by now. Not a single text. I decided not to disturb him. I walked out of the building and found Carter waiting by his car. Black trench coat, hands in pockets, silver glasses glinting in the dark. Sorry, tough night, he asked smoothly. I shrugged. Whatever, you're the client. If you want to invent problems, I just have to fix them. That boy, Carter said, adjusting his glasses, his tone conversational. He doesn't suit you. So that was it. He fabricated a crisis just to ruin my date. Petty, childish. Carter, I sneered, what gives you the right to critique my life? Carter stepped forward, cupped the back of my head, and lowered his mouth toward mine. I didn't think, I reacted. I drove my knee up, hard, straight into his groin. He released me instantly, doubling over, his legs clamped together. A guttural groan escaped him, his face twisted in agony. I felt a flash of fear mixed with satisfaction. Are you okay? He looked up, veins bulging on his forehead. I didn't break anything, did I? I asked, genuinely panicked now. He slumped against his car, taking deep, ragged breaths. Finally, he straightened up, though he still looked pale. Sloan, do you hate me that much? I sighed, the adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Carter, I don't hate you. I just don't like you. I don't believe you, he said. He stared past me, lost in some memory. Back then, I used to think you were stupid. You spent all your energy on me, making a huge deal out of the smallest things. But after seeing the real world, I realized how rare that kind of unconditional, burning love is. Sloan, give me a chance. He sounded sincere. I found it repulsive. When I gave him my heart on a silver platter, he thought I was stupid. Now that his life isn't perfect, he wants to use me as an emotional crutch. He wants me to worship him like a god again. The ego on this man. Pass, I said. I stepped around him and started walking toward the street. He chased after me, grabbing my hand. Sloan, am I not humble enough? Everyone in the company knows I'm chasing you. That ignited a spark of rage. Mr. Wei, I snapped, ripping my hand away. I am a married woman. Even if you don't care about your own reputation, consider mine. Consider my husband. How does this look? I was shaking. I needed to leave before I said something that would lose the contract. I turned to go, and my eyes locked onto a figure standing between two parked cars. Julian. His hair was windblown, his nose red from the cold. He looked like a stray dog waiting for its owner. He hadn't left. He'd been waiting downstairs for hours. "Why are you still here?" My voice cracked. It was ridiculous. It was irrational. He walked over, unzipped his jacket, and wrapped me inside it, pulling me into his warmth. "I was afraid to let you walk home alone at this hour," he murmured. His voice was deep and soothing, like a balm on my frayed nerves. I melted into him. Carter stood there watching us. He didn't speak, but he didn't leave. "Sloane," Julian whispered, glaring at Carter over my head. "Can I fight him?" I pulled back and looked at him. "Don't be childish. Why waste your energy on trash?" Julian understood. A small, triumphant smile played on his lips. "Sloane," Carter called out, his voice cold. "Think carefully. I won't wait for you forever." I ignored him completely. I took Julian's hand, interlaced our fingers, and walked away. In Carter's mind, we were never equals. He was used to me chasing him, looking up at him. Too bad I grew up. 11. Back at the hotel, after a round of wrestling, I collapsed on top of Julian. "I thought you said we were even," I teased, poking his chest. He pulled the duvet over his face, his chest heaving with laughter. He clearly didn't want to answer that. I rolled my eyes, smiling. At first, I didn't get what he meant by even. Then it clicked. He meant he was cutting ties with the past. He was resetting the board. But now, we definitely violated the no intimacy clause of the contract again. Who owes whom the penalty fee this time? I mean, we both took our clothes off. "You seem to be enjoying the show," I said, noting his shaking shoulders. He peeked out from under the blanket, blinking innocently. "I was originally very angry, you know." "Oh," I kept my face blank. He giggled again, "But I'm glad I stayed. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how much you care about me." "Excuse me." Where did he get that idea? I coughed awkwardly. Less talking, more working. The night is young. It was a workday morning, yet I woke up with a rare sense of joy. Julian was in a deep sleep. I wiggled around in his arms, but he didn't budge. A beam of morning sunlight hit his face, illuminating the fine dust motes dancing in the air and highlighting his absurdly perfect skin. I couldn't resist pinching his cheek, soft. When he still didn't wake up, I reluctantly dragged myself out of bed. I started my makeup routine, but my hand slipped while doing my brows. Great, now I looked like a cartoon character. I paused, staring at my reflection. Last night was different. It wasn't just physical, there was a rhythm, a synergy we didn't have before. Why did we suddenly click like that? I was about to wipe off the disaster on my forehead when a hand reached out from behind me and took the eyebrow pencil. Julian hopped up, half-sitting on the marble vanity counter. He wrapped one arm around my waist, pulling me between his legs. His smile was warm and sleepy. "Let me help, Sloane." My heart skipped several beats. I tried to maintain my cool facade. "Don't get cocky. If you mess this up, there will be consequences." He tightened his grip on my waist, pulling me flush against him. His bathrobe was loose, exposing his collarbones. My cheek brushed against his warm skin. "Before the consequences," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep, "can I have breakfast first?" He looked so serious, so innocent, yet the implication was filthy. My face heated up. I scrambled for a comeback to maintain my dominant older wife persona, but my brain short-circuited. He chuckled, ruffling my hair. "You're so cute, Sloane." The audacity. He's using cheesy, greasy pickup lines on me, and why is it working? I fought down a smile and glared at him. "Are you going to fix my eyebrows or not? I'm going to be late." "I'm fixing them." Julian tilted my chin up. He studied my face like a canvas, then began to draw with light, feathery strokes. His expression was focused, reverent, as if he were restoring a priceless painting. We were so close, our breaths mingled. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I thought he could feel it. When he finished, I bolted out of the bathroom without checking. I didn't dare look in the mirror until I was safely in the elevator. I pulled out my compact. Damn, it was perfect. Wait, why does he know how to do makeup? Who taught him that? 12. That one tiny question haunted me all day. If I asked him directly, I'd look petty and jealous. I am a mature adult. I don't do jealousy. But seriously, who taught him? I clocked out the second the workday ended. I was making a break for the door when Carter intercepted me. "Sloan, my office now." My stomach dropped. This wasn't going to be good. I walked into his office, dragging my feet. Carter stared at me for a long moment, his gaze dropping to my bare ring finger. "A man who can't even afford to buy you a diamond ring," he scoffed. "Is he really worth your time?" Before I could retort, his tone shifted. "Do you know what day it is?" "Oh God, here we go." "It's the anniversary of the first time you confessed your feelings to me." "Thanks for the reminder." "Thank you for reminding me that on this day, years ago, you rejected me in front of the entire student body on the track field." "Carter, listen to me. I've been polite because we have a business contract, but don't push me. This is harassment." He didn't hear me. He was too deep in his own main character moment. He reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a velvet box. He started to bend his knee. I froze in horror. Is he insane? We are in the office. If I scream, his reputation is toast. Does he think he owns me? Before his knee hit the carpet, he suddenly snapped back up and tossed the ring under his desk. I jumped. What the? Then I heard the clicking of heels and a sharp, mocking laugh from the doorway. "Carter, when you divorced me, you said men should prioritize their careers and that love was a distraction. So, what is this performance?" Miranda walked in. She looked expensive and mean. She side-eyed me with a sneer. "I don't mind giving my used trash to charity, but not to you, Sloan." "Miranda, what are you doing here?" Carter looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Miranda ignored him, glaring at me. My beef with Miranda started years ago over a makeup sample I refused to accept from her. Since then, she's made it her mission to bully me. She loves charity, as long as it makes her look superior. "I finally understand why you two were married," I said, looking between them. "You deserve each other." They both looked confused. I shrugged. Trash belongs in the dumpster, together. I turned on my heel and walked out. I was shaking a little. Insulting people on their turf is risky. As I speedwalked toward the exit, I called Julian. "Are you here?" I asked. "I'm at the front entrance. What's wrong?" He sensed the panic in my voice immediately. "Nothing, I'm coming out." I pushed through the revolving doors and stopped dead. 3 women with heavy makeup and ring lights surrounded me instantly. They shoved selfie sticks in my face. "Family, look, this is the homewrecker," one of them screamed at her phone. "She's the one ruining my bestie's marriage. She has a husband, too. Imagine being married to this cheater." They were live streaming. I was trapped. I couldn't run, and the security guards were conveniently missing. A crowd started to gather. Through a gap in the onlookers, I saw Carter walking out of the building. He saw the chaos. He saw me being harassed. And he walked the other way. "Hey, back off." A familiar voice cut through the noise. Julian shoved his way through the crowd, physically putting himself between me and the cameras. My eyes welled up. One man ran away to save his reputation. The other ran into the fire to save me. The contrast was blinding. In that moment, I regretted every second I ever wasted loving Carter, and I thanked every star in the sky for Julian. "I am her husband," Julian announced, his voice booming. "Turn off the cameras. Stop spreading lies." The streamers hesitated, then doubled down, shouting louder. Julian looked ready to smash their equipment. I grabbed his hand and pulled him close. "Julian, thank you." I pulled out my own phone. I opened the camera app, put on my best influencer smile, and addressed the live streamers' phones. "Hi everyone, sorry for the confusion. As you can see, my husband here is young, hot, and devoted. I'd have to be brain dead to cheat on him with some wrinkly old ex." I grabbed Julian's face and kissed his cheek. The benefits of a younger man, well, if you know, you know. I held up my phone screen. "This is our couple's account. Smash that follow button for our daily vlog. We'll be posting receipts later." The streamers looked confused. The homewrecker narrative fell apart when the husband was right there, looking like a K-pop idol and holding my hand. They cut their feeds. Miranda stepped out of the crowd. The streamers flocked to her like minions. Sloane, you have no shame, she spat. You want to be famous that bad. I rolled my eyes, hooking my arm through Julian's. Miranda, look at you. You look miserable. I have chat logs from Carter begging me to take him back. I'll post them tonight. Let the internet decide who the problem is. Miranda's face twisted. She had staged this to hurt me, but ultimately she wanted Carter back. Exposing him would ruin her plan. Let's go, Julian, I said, lacing my fingers with his. I don't like the smell of garbage. We walked away, heads held high. Sloane, Julian whispered once we were clear. Do you really know the benefits now? I laughed. Oh, I know, it's addictive. Be direct, Sloane. I'm falling in love with you, Julian. I said it, no hesitation. He stopped walking. He pulled me into a bone-crushing hug right there on the sidewalk. I like you so much, Sloane. That night, I posted the screenshots of Carter's desperate texts. I didn't do it for revenge. I did it to protect Julian. Later, we were lying in bed, the adrenaline fading. Julian, I asked, tracing patterns on his chest, is our relationship just physical? He sighed, hugging me tighter. Well, you have money. When we first got married, you kept finding ways to give me cash. Who could resist a sugar mama? I laughed. So that's it, I bought you. Why did you agree to marry me, Julian? I asked softly. He went quiet, his expression turned distant. Back then, he started, I put everything I had into a startup. It failed, I was broke, I had nowhere to go, and then you showed up with your 3-bedroom apartment. I gasped, sitting up. You scammed me for housing. He grinned, his eyes misty. Before I met you, I didn't care about love. I thought marriage was a transaction. So when you offered, I thought, why not? We can help each other. But he looked at me, his gaze intense. I'm so glad I said yes. I'm so glad I didn't miss you. My heart melted. Wait, I narrowed my eyes. You said you're glad you said yes, but you chased me. Sloane, his voice dropped to a husky whisper. Let's put it this way, I caught feelings first, but you, he ran a finger down my spine. You caught the physical attraction first. I blushed, fair point. One more thing, I asked. Who taught you to draw eyebrows? Do I need to learn that? He looked genuinely confused. Isn't it the same principle as sketching on paper? Show off. Since I'm so talented, let me draw them for the rest of your life, he said, smiling like he was offering me the world. And honestly, he was. After we celebrated our new understanding of the contract, Julian reached over to the nightstand and handed me a bank card. I stared at it. What is this? It's my salary card. Handing over the finances is standard husband protocol, isn't it? He looked nervous. I didn't slack off at work. I saved up all my overtime pay for this trip. Trust me, Sloane, I might be young, but I can take care of you. I took the card. It felt heavier than plastic. I tilted my head, smiling. Can we get a little more emotional? Sloane, I love you. Not enough. Wife, I love you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out.